Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It has been a hot minute since I have been on here, like 3 months, to give you all an update on our homeschooling journey. If you are new here, my name is Valerie. This is the Henderson house, and this is our first year homeschooling. So my son is 6, and so this is our first official year homeschooling. I'm a second generation homeschooler, and we use the Charlotte Mason philosophy within our home, and we use Ambleside Online as our basis for our curriculum. And so this year was our first year, so my son is in year 1 of Ambleside Online, and I'm going to kind of go through some of the highs of our term, some of the things that we're working on. If you're watching this video and you're a homeschool mom and you're homeschooling for the first time and you're learning all these things, trying to navigate routine, habits, rhythms, and schedules, and all the things, I hope you're encouraged. Maybe get some ideas from this video. And so in this video, I'm going to go over some of the things that we've done with our first term, whether it's our daily work, the rotating subjects within the feast of our education, what the environment of our days kind of look like, and our rhythms to our days, how we incorporate habit training, what do I do with my toddler and my baby that are also around, and things like that. And also, we are a law enforcement family, so I'm going to touch a little bit on what that looks like within our days and how it's actually been a blessing to homeschool as a law enforcement family. So thanks for tuning in to our Term 1 recap video for the Henderson house. So like I mentioned, we follow and use the Charlotte Mason philosophy within our home. And as I've been studying Charlotte Mason over the last few years, I actually started reading her volumes and her books and other books that women have written about her method and philosophy. A few years ago, I started reading them to get within the mindset and understanding of her philosophy, because education doesn't just start at 6 years old, right? Education starts when a child is born, and the cultivation of that person and their personhood, I should say, starts from the moment they are born. And so Charlotte Mason has been really a blessing to me as a mother. And then Ambleside Online is the curriculum that we use as our foundation. And obviously, Charlotte Mason's method as a whole incorporates a lot of living books and learning through story and not just textbooks. And so Ambleside Online is a huge blessing. And actually, because it's free, it made my world so much easier for planning our year 1. And so if you're curious about Charlotte Mason or what Ambleside is, I'll link some stuff below that you can read on, like, just some simple introduction to who Charlotte Mason was and her philosophy and what Ambleside Online is. You can find some of those links below. So because this was our first year of homeschooling, there was a lot of new things, right? This was new, these were new rhythms for my 6-year-old son and my toddler, and then our baby, obviously. So there was a lot of new daily patterns for our home. And so one thing I want to touch on first is that we are our law enforcement family, and so that can look a little crazy. And if you're not a law enforcement family, that's okay. Maybe if you're a military family, you can relate. But law enforcement can be challenging in the sense where we don't have as much time as a family. Rhythms and schedules are constantly kind of changing. There is some consistency, and we try to do our best with daily rhythms. But there's a lot of overlap and things that changed around, and that's just the nature of the job, and that's okay. And so for me, when I was planning our homeschool days, it's important that I make sure that we have time to touch base as a family, where the kids get to see their dad and spend time with their dad, and where we don't take away from that. And so we actually found a pretty good rhythm to our days. So my husband is a second shift officer, and so that means he's home more in the beginning of the day, and that can be kind of where the school time overlaps. But thankfully, we have found a daily rhythm, and we tend to try to do our school first thing in the morning, which actually works really well for my son. That's when his attention, I think, is the most focused. And so my husband tends to go to the gym in the morning, and so he's gone for about an hour or so, and that actually gives us the bulk of our time to do our school. It does not take my 6-year-old 8 hours in a day, which, you know, public school system, right? He'd be gone for 8 hours, and he would never see his dad if that was the case. So we really get most of our school done within that first hour and a half of the morning. We start around 8 o'clock. And he's done by like 10:30, which then gives him time, my son, time to spend with his dad before his dad gets ready for work. And that's been awesome. And it has worked so well. There's days, obviously, that maybe that doesn't work the way it's intended, but I would say about 90% of the time that's been our rhythm, and we kind of found that. And initially, I had made a timeline, threw that timeline out the window, whatever, doesn't matter. So holding very loose to the timeline and just allowing the rhythms to be natural. And that was kind of the natural rhythm we found to fit within our family routine. So part of our term is also our co-op. And so our Charlotte Mason Academic Co-op, the Lark Song Cooperative, we meet every other week during term 1. We take term 2 off because it's the colder months, and it's just a little harder to do our things together as a group with little ones, like nature studies and walks when it's really cold out. And then we reconvene in term 3 for the spring term. And at co-op, we get to do a lot of the feast, and that's been wonderful. And my son loves it. So does my toddler. She loves our co-op days. And so it's an academic co-op, so the kids are very much expected to have certain behaviors and habits within their classes with the teachers, and these are all Charlotte Mason mothers and families, and so we all believe in the same method and philosophy for our homes, and so we're all instilling those things within our children, and so that's really been a blessing to us. And so we do things like they do story, they do handicraft, they do dance, they do Swiss drill, they do their nature studies, scouting, singing and music, which I teach. And so there's been a lot that they get to do at co-op. And we have off-week assignments that we do at home on the off week of co-op, which has been really fun. And my son loves it. And if I was to ask him what his favorite co-op classes are, he would say all of them, and he would just proceed to list everything. And he loves co-op, loves spending time with his friends and getting to know his teachers. He really loves all of the teachers, which are just the moms of our group, right? And so it's been a huge blessing to us for our first year of homeschooling, and it's been great. The second thing I wanted to recap with term 1 has been daily work. And now my son is 6. We didn't really do much prior to that, maybe some activity pages and stuff. We didn't really do any formal school time per se before 6 years old. And it's been really great because Charlotte Mason is so adamant about the age of the child when they are ready. And so he's 6, he turned 6 within the term, and he has been thriving, and he's been loving learning, loving our time together, loving his independent work, or loving his daily work and the stories we read, and that's been super great. And so daily work, I would say at first it was a little challenging to find his rhythms, but now it's just been so fun to watch. Now initially when we started daily work, I was like, okay, we have to think, here's our little school space, here we do school, yada yada yada. Slowly threw that out the window. We do start in our school space, which I'll give you a tour of that eventually because it's a multi-purpose space. We tend to do school wherever. We do school out in my bedroom on our bed if I'm nursing the baby or changing the baby's diaper or wherever. We do school in the living room. We've done school outside. We've done school in the kitchen. So school is done everywhere within the house. And one thing I also pulled back on a lot is making him feel like he needed to like always be in one spot. I let him be free. I let him move around. He's a 6-year-old boy. I let him wiggle and do his things, and he actually tends to pay attention really well when he is kind of occupied. So when we do daily work, that's the one that needs his most attention and like his own individual attention. And then when I am doing read alouds, so the feast, so whether we're reading 50 Famous Stories or Aesop's Fables or the Blue Fairy Book, he tends to need something to do, and that's what I've noticed. And so what we do as part of our narration, and this is the third thing I wanted to talk about, is how we have grown within understanding narration and how to narrate, because that is such a core element of the Charlotte Mason education. And so for narration, early on, I started with small paragraphs at a time, and I would have him tell me the best he could within his own words. And actually now what I've started doing is I will have encouraged him to tell me, and I actually write down, and that actually helps him focus on what he's saying and paying attention. So I write down his narration, and then a lot of times I'll also have him draw a picture of his narration, and that actually really helps. And so we have his own individual notebook for his narrations, and he loves to draw pictures. And so that has been really cool to see that develop, and he remembers the stories very well through that. And now one of the cool things about narration is through time, their narration will develop and grow as they get older and as they mature, because they will understand and grow with the stories. And so that's been really cool to work on with him, his narration, and within myself, understanding the philosophy better, because I am by no means an expert on Charlotte Mason, nor will I claim to be an expert on Charlotte Mason. If you want some references to people who are wonderful sources on Charlotte Mason, I will link those below, and you can take a look at those as you will. The fourth thing I want to address is habit training. Now, I have learned from other mothers and friends of mine that habit training is a really important thing to always be working on and cultivating with your child. And now, habit training isn't like, put your dirty laundry away, put your clothes away, you know, that kind of thing. Habit training in the sense of, let's cultivate the habit of attention. Let's cultivate the habit of kindness. Let's cultivate the habit of being polite. Let's cultivate the habit of gentleness, right? These sort of like fruits of the spirit, self-control, things like that. So those are the habits that we tend to focus on. And obviously there's always going to be an influx of things as we are, especially in our home, we're Christians. And so we try to incorporate the gospel into everything that we do within our parenting to the best of our ability with the Lord's help. And so habit training, the thing that we've been focusing on this term, has been the habit of attention and patience, because they're very different. They kind of go together and they're different. Patience comes in other ways, not just with learning. Patience is something that we need to have with our little sisters, or with the task at hand, or with ourselves and things like that. So patience has been one thing we've been focusing on a lot. And obviously the habit of attention is a constant growth, especially for a 6-year-old boy. And so those are the habits that we've been working on, and it's actually been encouraging to see those things develop with him, where early on in the term, he really struggled with both of those things, trying to pay attention, but also trying to be patient. And now it's really been sweet to see those things develop with him, and the little light bulb moments have been really encouraging to me as a mom, and I think for him as well. So the next thing I want to address within our term 1 recap is the feast. Now, the feast of learning incorporates like folk songs, hymn study, composer study, artist study, art, like our drawing, our handicraft, and things like that. So a lot of the feast that we do is actually done at our co-op every other week, but then we have our own things that we rotate throughout the week. And now in my previous video on our kind of my planning video, I showed you my color-coded schedule, and that has worked so well for us. We know, like for me especially, knowing that I'm not overwhelming him with stories, it helps us break up our time, break up our readings. Daily work is done all the time, but it helps really kind of spread out all of the stuff that we read every week, and that has worked perfect for us. So the color coding, if you watched my planning video, if that works for you, it's very simple. Go check it out. Has worked excellent for our routine. The Feast of Subjects has been really fun and enjoyable. I've really enjoyed a lot of these things because a lot of this is new for me. I've never read these books before, so I am getting to learn with him. I mean, obviously there's knowledge and things like this that I already knew, but I've never read maybe the specific story of like Regulus or Boadicea, Queen Boadicea of Britain. You know, those aren't stories that I like read, and now I have, and so it's been really cool to learn with him and to hear him and to see him learn as well. Then obviously with term 1, we have an exam at the end, and an exam in Charlotte Mason is not something that's graded. It's all about comprehension and seeing where the child has really grasped onto things, where they need to maybe have some more focus work, and seeing if they have mastered certain elements. So within the exam, there's elements for daily work, so like copy work, math, reading, recitation, Spanish, because that's the language we're doing, stuff like that. Then within the exam, it's all oral based, so I would ask him questions on things that we had read, and he would then tell me. And so that was really cool to do. His father got to be a part of it, which was really special as well. And so he really got to enjoy doing that with his dad involved. Another question I know will come up within this video probably, if you're watching, is what do I do with my toddler? Well, she has been the fun part of term 1. Finding, like, so she's only 2, but she's highly intelligent and she's just been very advanced since she was little. She started walking at 8 months, so she has been very busy and an active brain since she was a baby. And so for her, I tried to give her things to do. So she loves to color. That is like her favorite thing. So we have actually these wipeable books that you use just a dry erase marker with, and she will sit and do that for like a long time. She will just focus on it, or just coloring pages in general. So we go through lots of coloring pages and the wipeable pages for her, because she will just color, and it's great. So, but there's a lot of times where that doesn't work out, and there's tantrums happening and things get interrupted. And so thankfully, one of the things that's been a blessing, and I know this isn't the norm for everybody, but because my husband is second shift, if he's home for a little bit while Dean and I are doing our read alouds, she will be occupied by Dad, which is nice. And I know that's not the case for everybody, but that doesn't happen every day. Just so you know, that's maybe happens like 20% of the time, but it is a nice little, just in case, you know, if he's home and he's not busy with something for work, then he'll occupy her. So that's been nice, but it doesn't happen every day. Like I said, it may happen 20% of the time. The rest of the 80% of the time, I'm finding things for her to do, which usually involves coloring. Play-Doh, we love the Young, Wild, and Friedman kits. So we have Play-Doh kits, and we have kinetic sand kits. So she loves all that. And that's typically what I try to do to keep her occupied, because if she tends to go find something to do elsewhere, if she's quiet, she's one of those toddlers where I have to keep an eye on her. So our house is small, so thankfully I can hear what's going on everywhere around me. And the bedroom is not, it's like 4 feet away from where we typically are doing school, whether it's in the living room, their bedroom's 4 feet away. It's the office, bedroom's 4 feet away. So everything is really close. And so I can easily keep an eye on her, but thankfully coloring and Play-Doh and kinetic sand are like some of her favorite things to do, and that will keep her occupied while Dean and I do our school together. So for me, as a mom with term 1, I wanted to recap some things that I've noticed in myself as growth, because this is a whole new season for me. And so if you're a first-time homeschooling mom, I'm sure that there has been growth for you or things get exposed. So I'll go over that now. So for me as a mom, one of the things that I've noticed about myself is my own personal time to do things that I need to get done, whether it's read my Bible or have my prayer time or do household things, or use my own habit training of self-control and patience, and all of those things I have had to work on as a mom. And so whether it's during school time or just in general during the day, because our mornings are now full, right? So now with homeschooling, I have to rethink about how I plan out my own daily work and tasks that I have to accomplish as a wife and a mom and someone who takes care of the home. And so making sure my children are fed, that dinner is prepped, that my husband has his meals for his evenings when he comes home, that the house is picked up, all of those little things that we think about. But then I also have had to remind myself that that is secondary to the importance of being a wife and a mom. So I try my best, not very good at it yet, but I'm working on it within myself. And it's been a lot of self-growth in this new season of homeschooling, but it's been wonderful. And so that's just kind of a little recap of term 1. And so like I said, if you're new here, you're a first-time homeschooling mom, maybe you're a second-generation homeschooler like me, and still homeschooling for your own family is new, then I hope you can follow along, subscribe. Feel free to hit me up with questions, ask me what I'm doing. I'll link my planning video also below so you can watch that if you need to. I go over our Charlotte Mason curriculum that we're using for my son and all of the books that we've been using for his year 1 in the Charlotte Mason education. So thanks for tuning in to the Henderson House and our term 1 recap. Bye guys.